Welcome to the Voting Location Accessibility Assessment online training. To prepare for the next general election, you are required to conduct inspections of all voting locations in your electoral district. Please have a copy of the Voting Location Inspection Checklist, Form FO255, and Voting Location Inspection Reference Guide, Form FO256, on hand during this training. Voting location inspection has three goals. Accessibility. To ensure each location is accessible for persons with disabilities, to comply with the Election Act requirements, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, and the Human Rights Code. Technology. To determine if voting locations can support technology, such as tabulators and e-poll books. And security. To evaluate security measures. Please note that this training does not replace the Voting Location Inspection Checklist Reference Guide, Form FO256, which provides detailed information for each checklist section. The objective of this training is to provide you a full understanding of how to complete a voting location inspection, and determine if the location is suitable. At the end of this training, you will be able to evaluate a voting location for its suitability, use the tools provided, and recommend remediation products, where necessary, to meet accessibility requirements. The training consists of two videos. In this first video, we will cover the basics of how to use the Voting Location Inspection Checklist, Form FO255, and how to use the tools in your kit. Elections Ontario's site accessibility standards ensure that what is required for an accessible voting location under the Election Act, and other relevant legislation, is applied in a consistent manner across all electoral districts. The Site Accessibility Standards outlines the returning officer's legislative responsibilities, and details assessment criteria and points, the process for isolated communities, and remediation, among others. The returning officer must read and fully comprehend this document before inspections begin. The Voting Location Inspection Checklist and Returning Office Site Inspection Checklist are to be completed by the returning officer or their delegate when inspecting a location. These checklists act as the practical application of the site accessibility standards. The Voting Location Inspection Checklist contains 6 sections, to be completed by the RO, and or any designate staff, when conducting inspections. General information. VL General Accessibility Assessment. Accessible Route of Travel Diagram. VL General Technology Assessment. Poll Layout Diagram. VL General Security Assessment. The first 4 pages are used to record general location information. They can be completed either over the phone with the landlord by the returning officer, or, during the inspection by staff, where required. The General Accessibility Assessment section of the VL Inspection Checklist lists the accessibility criteria and what to measure. Make sure to record both the score for each criterion and the actual measurements on the checklist when conducting your inspection. A voting location is accessible when it meets the minimum point requirements. If a location requires remediation to make the location accessible, you must indicate the specific quantity of the product required on the remediation products table. For example, one information assistant to hold the door, as the power assist is broken or there is no power assist. On the route of travel page, you will sketch a detailed map of the accessible route from the parking lot to the voting room, and record any accessibility obstructions. You should also record areas which failed to meet the minimum requirements, and or where remediation is required. For example, recording where a ramp is required. The Voting Location General Technology Assessment section is to be used only for voting locations that will utilize technology. It provides electrical and connectivity assessment criteria for the voting room. It also includes information for the setup date and time, and for storage of technology equipment. On the poll layout page, you will sketch a detailed diagram of the voting room layout, including doors and windows. You also need to identify where, on each wall, the functional 3-pronged electrical outlets are located. The voting location's connectivity, for example 4G. And areas that fail to meet the minimum requirements, or where remediation is required, for example where an information assistant is required. The next section is the Voting Location General Security Assessment, which contains a checklist to complete. This documents potential security issues that may exist at a location. Elections Ontario will provide you with 2 voting location inspection kits. Each kit includes a tape measure, a slope meter, a receptacle tester, and a smartphone with a camera and the mobile signal application and field maps application installed. The first tool is a tape measure. Use the tape measure to measure the width of parking spots, doorways, ramps, and other accessible routes, as well as the height from the floor of objects such as handrails. Ensure the tape is straight when taking a measurement. To lock the tape at the current length, press the switch down. If unlocking to release the automatic rewind on the tape measure, be careful, it rewinds quickly and the outside edge of the tape measure may hurt your fingers. The next tool is a slope meter, used to measure the angle of a slope or ramp. To turn the slope meter on or off, press and hold the power button for a few seconds. To take a measurement, lay a clipboard on the slope to provide an even surface, and set the meter down on top of it, in line with the slope. The readout, expressed in degrees, will automatically appear. The next item in your kit is the receptacle tester. Use the receptacle tester, also called an outlet tester, to verify that a 3-pronged, grounded, wall outlet is wired properly. Locate all the outlets in the voting room to be used. For each outlet, plug in the receptacle tester and confirm the correct indicators are illuminated. This will help determine outlets that can be utilized, and the best location within the room to set up technology. Refer to the diagnostic chart in the Voting Location Inspection Checklist Reference Guide, Form FO256, to ensure the correct indicators have been illuminated on the receptacle tester, indicating that the receptacle has been wired correctly. The final tool in your kit is a smartphone. Your smartphone serves two purposes. The first is to utilize the Field Maps application and camera function to take photographs of certain aspects of the voting location and upload immediately for Geospatial Services team to review. And the second is to test connectivity via the Signal application. Additional instructions on how to use the phone and installed applications will be provided. Let's begin by looking at the Field Maps camera and photographic requirements. Use the camera on the Field Maps application on the smartphone to take 3 photographs that will be published to the Elections Ontario website during an event, as well as any accessibility-related issues encountered along the route of travel. The download speed and capacity of the phone has limitations, so only take and submit photos that illustrate all accessibility criteria that would require remediation. Make sure you have permission from the landlord before taking any photographs. Indicate to the landlord that only specific photographs will be published on the Elections Ontario website and the remaining are for accessibility review purposes and will not be shared with the public. To complete the voting location inspection, take photographs of the following. Exterior shot capturing the whole voting location, preferably with the signage and address, used as the first photograph for the website and can be used to identify the start of a series for this voting location. Exterior shot of the parking lot, to assist the elector in locating available parking. Exterior shot of voting location entrance, to assist the elector in locating the entrance into the building. Take additional photos of the following only if there are accessibility issues requiring remediation. Parking lot, to assist the elector in locating the parking lot. For remediation, focus on the accessible parking or where parking would need to be adjusted. Exterior route to voting location entrance. Use more than one photograph, if required. Use close-ups to indicate any issues with threshold, slope, and/or width on the route of travel. Ramps and sloped walkways. Use close-ups to indicate any issues with slopes and measurements. Entrance. Focus on the main pathway electors will take to get to an entrance. For remediation, use close-ups to indicate any issues with threshold width or accessibility. Interior route to room to be used, voting room. Use close-ups to indicate any issues with obstructions, floor surface, width, and/or thresholds. Elevator access to voting room, if applicable. Focus on any issues with elevator accessibility and distance to the voting room, if the voting location is not on the ground floor, but there is an elevator located in the building. Record each photograph's location on the sketch of the poll, indicating where the photo was taken and the subject of the photograph. For example, doorway, ramp, or obstruction. A series of photos should provide a complete overview of the location starting with the exterior, traveling towards the parking lot and then following the route to the voting location. Now let's look at using the Signal application on your phone on the menu screen to assess the connectivity of the voting room to be used. Touch the Signal icon to open the connectivity testing application. On the top left side of the screen, you will see the signal type. And in the top right corner, the signal strength, indicated by the number of bars. Run the speed test by touching the large speed test icon on your screen. The results will display automatically after the test is complete and will provide you with the download and upload speeds, as well as the latency, or ping, speed. More instructions on how to use the phone and applications will be provided to you. Before inspecting a location, you will also receive a voting location inspection letter, and an Elections Ontario ID badge and holder. When you enter the location, Present the letter to the receptionist, landlord, or site contact. Great work. Now move on to voting location assessment, online training video number 2.